Now, this is a difficult question for Arsenal fans to answer, but is it time for Noni Madueke to start ahead of Bukayo Saka? Madueke came on for Saka last night to win a penalty that earned Arsenal a 1-1 draw with Bayer Leverkusen. We'll get Charlie's verdict in a moment, but here's the action. Arsenal came close to taking a first-half lead when the ball fell to Gabriel Martinelli, but his shot hit the crossbar. Struck it well. In the second half, Leverkusen went ahead from a corner. Robert Andrich with a free header past David Raya. However, with 4 minutes to go, Madueke was brought down by Malik Tillman. Penalty for the visitors. Kai Havertz back to full fitness. He took it and scored against his former club. So it ended 1-1. Right, Charlie, Madueke has been very impressive from the bench. Should he be starting more?
It's a tough one. It's a very different game coming on, starting the game to coming off on the bench. I think when he's come on and the performance he's been putting on it is warranted starting. But the issue that he has, unfortunately, is that the Arsenal star boy plays in the same position as him. So it's going to take the manager to make a brave decision to make that change. And if I'm Noni Madueke, I'm asking the questions, what more can I do? Because when he come on last night, he changed the game in the favour for Arsenal. He got the ball and ran at the defenders, made things happen. In the 58, 59 minutes that Saka was on the pitch, he didn't.
Can you fit them both in?
I know, because you get the best out of them when they both play on that right-hand side. And that's why they haven't tried to fit them both in. So for me, you've got to play players in form. And Madueke's the one at the moment that's just stepping up to the plate.
Arsenal, I think you can say they were unconvincing last night, but they got a draw, big favourites to go through. So will Arteta care that they were unconvincing?
No, absolutely not. They want to stay in the tie. They didn't lose. Drew the game, going back to the Emirates full. They'll be hot favourites for the game, of course, and he'll be pleased with that they're not out of the tie. They didn't lose the game. They showed character to stay in the game and get the last-minute penalty that Kai Havertz scored and almost put them in a position now where they can be, all right, this is a job we've got to do now. But the surprising bit on the whole thing was that Bayer Leverkusen done to Arsenal what Arsenal have been doing to every Premier League team. So that was a bit of an eye-opener, how Arsenal allowed Bayer Leverkusen to score, but the goal was identical to the goals we see Arsenal score pretty much week in, week out.
Kai Havertz is back. How important can he be for Arsenal?
Very important. Very important when he comes back in. The style of play that we've seen Arsenal play with is kind of suits Kai Havertz. So for me, he's going to be an important player from now to the end of the season, with the Premier League push, with the Champions League push, Carabao Cup coming up, final coming up, and the FA Cup. They're in 4 competitions, and they're well in 4 competitions.
Martin Odegaard, when he was playing, a lot of Arsenal fans were coming on and saying Eze should be playing, or when Havertz is back, he should be playing in that kind of more advanced midfield role. But did Arsenal miss his energy and certainly his creativity?
When you perform the way he does, then you put yourself on a pedestal where if you don't perform to the levels, then people are going to say, oh, you need to come out. Other players should be given the opportunity to play in there. But ultimately, he's the captain of the football club. He's there for a reason. That is for his creativity. That is for his energy. That is for the stuff that he brings on the pitch. So for me, at times and in games like that, they do miss it.
Well, Sky Sports are partnered with Finalysis to discover true facts. Morning, what did you make of the performance last night?
Morning, guys. Yeah, it wasn't a great Arsenal performance. Nobody's going to try and claim it was anything other than that. I thought it was lacklustre at times. I thought it was a little bit pedestrian. I thought Arsenal were moving the ball too slowly. I certainly saw moments where Arsenal could have played a ball in behind, for example, for Gyökeres that bit earlier, or worked it into Eze that little bit earlier, and it just didn't happen. So I think pedestrian is the word I'd probably use to describe it. And you know, the reason I think Arsenal fans are feeling the way they are, and the reason why there always seems to be this discourse around this type of performance, is that we see them quite often. Now, is that, I'm not saying it's deliberate that Arsenal go out there and play with, you know, not quite being in anything more than third or fourth gear, but it does feel like at times that they're thinking about sustainability. They're thinking about longevity of the season. And it feels like in certain games, they're choosing to lean on their defensive strength and not looking to exert themselves in the hope that over the course of the campaign, maybe that's going to get them to where they need to be. Maybe crumbling the way they have in recent seasons has kind of caused a slight change in the approach, not just from the manager, but in terms of the players as well in games like last night.
Madueke versus Saka. What do you think?
I mean, listen, the beauty of having a squad like Arsenal have is that when someone's not playing particularly well, you can take them out. You can bring someone in who's a massive threat, and you can bring someone in who isn't going to see the level drop too much. Madueke has blown hot and cold at points this season. At times he's been amazing, and at times he's not had the impact that we would have hoped. Bukayo Saka's had, I think, some really good games since he's come back from injury. The North London derby away from home is the one that sticks out for me in terms of the performance. I don't think we're in a spot now where we should be saying Bukayo Saka's not the guy on the right-hand side for Arsenal anymore. Madueke's knocking on the door, and that's great, and we can make those changes. And if Madueke starts at the weekend, I don't think too many people would complain, but that is the beauty of the squad. Pitting them up against each other, I don't really see the benefit from an Arsenal point of view of doing that. There's competition there. They're both great footballers. They both bring something different, in my opinion. And having those options means that the manager's got what he needs to be able to pick the right tool for the right job.
But he's always had them options, Harry, and that's why he's built the squad that he has. And no one's saying it's Saka v Noni Madueke, and it's the timing. When you come on for the last half an hour, 20 minutes of a game, it's very different to starting a game, right? It really is. I just thought last night showed that what Saka did in the first 58 minutes, couldn't really get past him. He wasn't playing with that kind of freedom or that what we've seen him do and expect him to do so often, right? Then when Noni Madueke come on, he just almost done it instantly. And I get it. First half an hour to the last half an hour is very different. But at times, do you think Mikel Arteta will take Saka out and play Madueke and then at times bring Saka off the bench? Or do you think Saka is guy that will stay on the right?
It's an interesting one because if I'm honest with you, I was watching the game yesterday and I was looking at it and I was going, Saka's not playing very well. I'd take him off. But there was a part of me that was like, he's the captain tonight. He's kind of the talisman of this team. Would Mikel Arteta do that? And I was pleasantly surprised, actually, that he went, no, do you know what? You're not playing well tonight. Let's get you off. That showed a lot for me in terms of how Mikel Arteta has kind of changed a bit as a coach in recent years, how he's developed as a coach, how it's not about one ego, it's not about one person, it's about the collective. And it showed me that he's got trust in his squad, that you would take off arguably your best player in a game where you need a goal and bring someone on who at times has divided opinion. I liked it. I liked that he made that move. And if he makes that change going forward, if it's based on form, nobody's going to complain. You know, when we built and assembled this squad, it was always with a view to having different options. Madueke in a crowd scene, for me, is better. He's a much more dangerous dribbler. I think he commits people. And once he gets past you or he pops a pass off left and right, he's sucked in 3 or 4 defenders and he creates carnage all the time. Saka, I'd rather it was Saka cutting in and having a shot. So they've got different strengths and they've got different attributes. And I just think what the game needed at that stage last night was more Madueke than Saka. And Saka didn't have a good night, but that can happen.
How important can Havertz be?
For me, he's so important. He's so important. I think it's gone under the radar, actually, you know, how much Arsenal have missed him this season. I think we keep talking about the squad, the strength and depth. There's lots of focus, obviously, on Victor Gyökeres, big money signing in the summer, the centre-forward that Arsenal needed, according to a lot of people. And I actually think that the idea that they went for Gyökeres was in part because they felt that he would have the time to adapt and develop because he'd be able to share the role with Kai Havertz. Well, that hasn't been the case. Havertz has missed the majority of the season. He's incredibly versatile. We can play in that attacking midfield role. He can play at centre-forward. He can win duels. He can score goals. For me, you know, missing him has been a massive blow. And actually getting him back fit and protecting him enough to make sure that he doesn't have, hopefully, any more setbacks is probably going to be a real decisive factor in whether or not Arsenal can go on and win one of the big ones this season. I really do believe that. If
Arsenal go through and Manchester City don't, does that help you win the title?
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. There was a part of me last night watching Manchester City and thinking, you know, as a rival fan, you know, you want Real Madrid to do the business. But then there was a part of me thinking, this means that they probably will focus more on the Premier League. They don't have that potential quarter-final where, you know, they're going to face, you know, Bayern Munich maybe in 2 games either side of a Premier League game. So in that sense, you know, you kind of want them in it to have those more, to have more games, to have more challenging games in between Premier League games and all the rest of it. But then their confidence, the fact that they've gone to Real Madrid and got beaten the way they have, I guess we won't know until the end of the season. But in answer to your question, I'd rather they have more games than less games, and I'd rather they have more of those high intensity games than less games, and the time to prepare and build for matches.
OK, thank you, Harry.
Cheers, guys.
Right, Charlie, in the last hour we talked about whether Pep Guardiola had gone too attacking. Let's say he'd put in more of a defensive midfielder rather than Semenyo or Doku, whatever, anyone behind Haaland, and lost 3-0. Would we be saying, why didn't he go more attacking?
Yeah, definitely. And that's the beauty of football. We all have opinions of it, and when results don't go right, we use one excuse, and when they do go right, we use the other. I think the alarming bit is in the way they defended and the way they conceded the goals. One long pass from goalkeeper out to Valverde on the right. Nico O'Reilly, for all the plaudits that he's done, he's been really well over the last few weeks and months. Gets done by the flight of the ball. The first touch is brilliant. Donnarumma just loses his bearings, I think. When he's come out the way he does, I think he's outside the box, and now he looks at it, he probably could have grabbed hold of the ball and rolls it into an empty net. But the bigger thing is how they defended, Tom. That was the biggest thing. We talk about the attacking players, and was there too many on the pitch? But defensively, they wasn't great last night. They really wasn't.
Attacking-wise, in the second leg, could they steamroller Real Madrid and take this at least to stoppage time, extra time, and maybe even go through?
It's how
because they have to attack. They're 3-0 down.
Yeah, they have to attack, of course. But Real Madrid, do they try and nick one on the counter? That's if they get one, then the tie's obviously pretty much over. It's how they start. They can't concede. Like I say, the biggest thing is how vital is that penalty missed to Real Madrid? How important was that for Man City that penalty didn't go in? That still keeps the door ajar. And if City start well and get that first goal in the first 10 minutes, then it could be game on.
Well, it was a tough night for City. It was a good one for Chelsea for about 74 minutes, but having battled back to level at 2-2 with PSG, they collapsed in the final 15 minutes, losing 5-2. PSG took the lead through Bradley Barcola, his first Champions League goal for over a year. But Chelsea equalised. Enzo Fernandez set up Malo Gusto. His shot went under Matvei Safonov. But PSG went back in front before half-time. Chelsea caught on the counter-attack. Ousmane Dembele. Pass. No. Shoot. Good decision. Beating Philip Jorgensen, but Chelsea hit back early in the second half. Pedro Neto picked out Fernandez. So 2-2. But a mistake from Jorgensen cost Chelsea dearly. He tried to play out from the back, gave the ball away, and Vitinha made it 3-2. And then it was 4-2. Kvaratskhelia, the great strike. So 4-2. But then look at this. The players clashed because Pedro Neto pushed the ball boy here while trying to get the ball back quickly. The referee took no action against Neto for the incident. In the final moments of the match, Kvaratskhelia scored again to make it 5-2. PSG in control, I think it's fair to say. So you said what went wrong for Manchester City, what went wrong for Chelsea?
Defensive frailties. We can say about the goalkeeper and the 2 goals that he conceded that he shouldn't have. But overall, defensively, and I've said it for weeks and months now on this show, is that they have no leaders, characters, big game experience, players that are in the 30s. Like I said, Rudiger should never have been able to leave that football club. He is someone that Chelsea are crying out for. And you just look at the other goals that they conceded. Where are they? Cole Palmer has a shot that gets saved by PSG goal. Then they get hit on the counter-attack with only 2 Chelsea defenders chasing back. Listen, I just thought it was a poor performance in the end for Chelsea. And we're saying missed opportunity, but that last goal could be a real pivotal one.
What about Pedro Neto pushing the ball boy?
Frustration. His team's just been given the runaround for the last 20 minutes and the ball boys tried to hide the ball. There's no need for it. Of course there isn't, but I'm putting that down to pure frustration.
Pedro Neto wasn't sent off. What do you think of that?
what actions are you wanting to come of that, or what action should be given to him? Listen, there's no way there should be any room for that in our game to putting hands on it. Anybody, let alone the ball boy, that's just doing their job, that's there. I'm putting it down to pure frustration. I'm putting it down for the players' perspective, pure frustration. I feel like the ref made the right decision.
OK. If we talk about Chelsea there, defeats for them. There was also defeats for Liverpool, Spurs, Manchester City, draws for Arsenal and Newcastle United. So, in terms of those results, how much has that surprised you? That, I mean, could you have foreseen none of the English clubs getting a win in that first leg?
No, but
doesn't mean they're going out.
No, it doesn't. But I'm going to say the biggest surprising one is obviously Arsenal at Leverkusen, because you'd expected them to go there and win. That's because how well they've done this season and the expectation that's on Arsenal's shoulders to go there and win. Listen, they're not out of the tie, of course, but that was just, as you say, a shock one, and they only drew 1-1. But I think Liverpool going to Galatasaray, losing, you never know what team Liverpool's going to turn up. The other teams, it's a strange one. And Newcastle 1-1 at home to last kick of the game penalty with Barcelona. So I would say Arsenal not winning would be the biggest eye-opener one for me.
We've got a voice note from Kenny.
Well, for me, I think the English clubs are arrogant. They don't have much respect for the teams in Europe. So when they go there, they expect to blow away their opponents. But obviously, as we can see, it's not that easy. So they need to, get a hold of themselves. They might be good and all, but show some respect to their opponents.
You used the word arrogance earlier on, didn't you?
Yeah, sometimes it's more. Is it for the media? Is it the players? Is it the clubs? Is it the fans? Is it expectations? We go in there and just because we had 6 of the top 8 in the league format, the Champions League. As soon as you go to the knockouts, it's a completely different format, and maybe we're going into it too arrogant, expecting one of the English teams should win, but we got knocked over in that first leg with only what 2 of the teams drawing, the other 4 getting beat. So it's going to be a very interesting second leg. Also, with 2 teams look like they're 2/3 teams look like they're out.
All right. Well, let's ask you that now then. So you said at the top 2.5 English teams will go through. Explain that. 2.5. First of all, who are the 2 that are going through?
I expect Arsenal to have too much for Bayer Leverkusen in the second leg. I honestly do. I expect Liverpool to have too much for Galatasaray at home, Anfield, and they should have enough to beat them and to get through into the net. They really should, but it just needs to be the Liverpool of old to turn up. And the half one where you can't cancel them out and can't write them off is Newcastle. They're well and truly in the game. Yes, they've got a tough battle ahead going to Barcelona, but they're well and truly in the game. Where them other 3, I'm sorry to say, but you're out.
So Man City out, Chelsea out, Tottenham out, Liverpool, Arsenal through, and Newcastle, you're at 50-50 at the moment.
Yeah.
OK, well, we can get the Opta have been doing their predictions for this, and there's only, look at them, 1, 2, 3 of those clubs have got less than 10%. I mean, Spurs there on 3.3% chance. There, and so Arsenal, Liverpool only about 50% though. Does that surprise you that they're not more surprised?
They're still what they're a goal behind, aren't they? You'd expect more, but it's Anfield European nights. That's where everyone is holding on to. They really are.
Every club's gone down from the first leg prediction, by the way.
Well, I'm not surprised. Spurs started off at 46.3. Of course, they've gone down. Of course, I'm surprised on the Newcastle one, really. I'm surprised on the Newcastle one.
You thought the Newcastle one would be lower?
No, I thought it would have been a bit higher, if I'm honest. They're still in the game.
Higher after this second leg, after the first leg?
After the first leg, yeah, because they're still in the game. I know it's a tough battle going there against Barcelona, but they are well and truly in the game.
When you said 2.5, I think Newcastle will go through as well. But I'm also not ruling out Manchester City. So
I just think they've got that bit between their teeth where it's all gun. Everything for Newcastle is down the Champions League route, because their league form at the moment has not been up to scratch, and they look like they're going to get in the top 5. No, they don't.
No. OK, well, they could still get Europa Conference League or Europa League, I suppose, if they have a good end to the season. When you play over 2 legs, every club seems to want to be away first, right? Now, OK, we don't know who's gone through yet, but only 1 team won away from home, and that was Bayern Munich winning 6-1, actually, against Atalanta. What's changed?
I think the narrative of that is now quickly is swiftly going to move away from the fact that you need to remember everybody used to bank on the fact that away goal was counted. Now that's been scrapped.
It's been scrapped for a long time.
Yes,
so
but
why
then,
does
yeah,
clubs
but then
still want to be away?
Because everyone thinks they get them at home in the second leg. If you're chasing the game, then you get home fans. But why not flip that and be like, well, why don't we get in front at home?
Get the lead.
Get the lead at home. So for me, I don't really buy into that. However long the away goals rule has been in scrapping, it's still stuck into that mode of I would like to play away first. It's a tougher job to do. Well, look at them results last night. The teams that played at home, and especially against the English clubs, dominated them.
Some clubs are experts at taking the lead and keeping the lead over 90 minutes. So it does kind of make more sense to want to be at home first, for me.
Well, whatever decision the English clubs made last night...
Because the teams who finish higher in the league get the away leg because it's seen as an advantage.
But they going on the bit of... But you can never go... When you're playing European games in that league format, Arsenal are not looking at it and they're just thinking we're going to finish top spot because, so say, we get the easier draw. We get the easier tie. That's more of the look at they're looking at rather than home and away. That home and away advantage for me now in the European football is non-existent.
Yeah. Loads of reaction to last night's Champions League games on the way. Manchester City, Chelsea and Arsenal fans will join us over the course of the next 2 hours. But after no English clubs won their last 16 first legs, we're asking, are top Premier League clubs as good as we thought? On Tuesday, Liverpool were beaten 1-0 in Turkey by Galatasaray. Then the Spurs shambles in Spain as they were thrashed 5-2 by Atletico Madrid. Newcastle were minutes away from victory over Barcelona at St James's Park, but it finished 1-1. The same scoreline in Germany last night as Bayer Leverkusen held Arsenal. Real Madrid in control of their tie with Manchester City. They take a 3-0 advantage to the Etihad. And PSG will head to Stamford Bridge with a 3-goal lead as well. They beat Chelsea 5-2. Judge, good morning to Charlie Austin. First of all, are you shocked by the first leg results? And are top Premier League clubs as good as we thought?
Some of the results, you're shocked by them, of course. You look at the Tottenham one, for argument's sake. Are you shocked by it? No. It's always going to catch up with them in the end. The Chelsea one, are you shocked? You have to say yes, because the way they have been performing in the Premier League, however you know what PSG are about. I think the biggest one for everybody was the Real Madrid-Man City one. I think that was the biggest shock of all. And seeing, everyone can say, was Pep too attack-minded in his tactics? Was he in his formation, etc., players he picked? But ultimately, Real Madrid just showed their class and quality. And the player, Valverde, who scored a hat-trick, is undoubtedly a world-class player.
You said that's the one that maybe shocked you. Was it the fact that it was 3-0 rather than just one goal in it, as opposed to a shock that Real Madrid beat them?
I think it was the first 18 minutes of what Man City showed was what we kind of expected. Front foot attacking play. Jeremy Doku was getting in, putting balls in the box, just couldn't get the end product. But the moment Real Madrid scored, it was all about them. And it was just Man City couldn't cope with what Real Madrid had to offer. And I think that was the most surprising bit. The only shining light in it was Donnarumma saving that penalty. And that, for me, still gives them the outside chance in the second leg.
Right, we'll get into those 3 games from last night with the Premier League clubs throughout the next 2 hours. But now, in general, let's speak to European football expert Kevin Hatchard now. Kevin, always great to see you. Do you think that some people in this country have underestimated the top sides around Europe?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think what's happened is people have looked at the league phase and looked at the way that English clubs dominated the top 8. And I think the assumption's been made that, yes, the Premier League has the most money, it has the biggest concentration of talent, and automatically they're going to breeze through against these teams. But you have to look at the quality of opposition. So Chelsea were playing the European champions, Newcastle were up against the La Liga leaders, Manchester City ran into a Real Madrid team that played by far its best game of the season. I didn't see that level of performance coming from them. Liverpool were up against a Galatasaray team that spent an enormous amount of money on their squad and has lots of different options. You know, you could bring on Gundogan or Icardi or Sané, so they've got a lot of depth there. Spurs are a mess and faced Atletico Madrid. And look, Leverkusen have a lot of talent. So they're not up against teams that are pushovers. They're not up against teams that don't have quality and haven't spent money on their squads.
No, they're not, Kevin. The only one, and I agree with you on that, the only result I think that was the standout one that was surprising was Arsenal probably drawing to Leverkusen, right? You'd expect Arsenal to win there. But with the other results, you are looking at it where you're going, the teams they're playing against. Liverpool already lost to Galatasaray. Like you mentioned, PSG, with Real Madrid, etc. You just look at it now, and does it come down to the arrogant side of English mentality more than anything?
No, I'm always slightly loath to draw kind of league-to-league comparisons because you have to look at individual cases. So look at Tottenham. I mean, their confidence is on the floor. Igor Tudor's making all kinds of different decisions to try and get a spark, to try and make something happen. And you run into an Atletico team that just hammered Barcelona 4-0 in the Copa del Rey semi-finals at the Metropolitano. Yes, they lost the second leg 3-0, but at home, if people have watched Atleti recently, they've been scoring buckets of goals and they've been coming from all different players. You look at Liverpool, we know they've been up and down all season. You only have to look at those two performances at Wolves, one really bad in the Premier League, one a lot better in the FA Cup, and I thought they were poor on the night, and Galatasaray could have won by more. And then you look at Chelsea, and Chelsea are a work in progress. They've got a naivety about them, and PSG were able to really take advantage. So I think when we look at these, you always have to an extent, drill down and look on a case-by-case basis.
But on that Chelsea one, Kevin, it seems like we're always saying that they're on that path and they're trying to transition, they're trying to do something else. This happens every 12, 18 months with Chelsea. When's that trend going to stop and we're going to say, right, they're the finished article, or they're going to actually... Do you know what? This is where they are. They are a top 4 team in the Premier League, but they're not going to go and win the title. Yeah, they do compete in the Champions League, but only to a certain stage. Or are we going to finally see them break through the mould and compete at the top end of the Champions League, the top end of the Premier League? Because at the moment, we just seem on that same old cycle.
I feel like their model is not conducive to winning something like the Champions League, or certainly not the Premier League, because they are looking at youth, they are looking at developing youth. There's an obsession with player trading there, which I think has been there for some time under the current owners. And the fact that they didn't go that hard for Mike Maignan in terms of the deal that they could have done, they didn't push as hard as they could have, that tells you a lot, because I think they're going to try and promote Mike Penders, who I really, really like. He's on loan at Strasbourg at the moment, very young, very talented. I think they probably see him as the next number one. But what you have at the moment is you have two goalkeepers in Sanchez and Jurgensen, who are maybe not up to the level that's required to win the Premier League or the Champions League. The
competitiveness of the Premier League is being talked about as a potential reason why there might be fatigue for these clubs who are still in the Champions League at this stage. Like, for instance, Wolves got a draw against Arsenal when it was bottom against top. Is that a regular thing that happens in the top leagues around Europe, or is that just a Premier League thing?
Yeah, look, the Premier League is competitive all the way down, and I think that you look at the rise of teams like Brentford, like Bournemouth, like Brighton, and these are teams that can spend, relatively enormous sums on young players who they can bring in and develop. And when you've got clubs like that fishing in the same waters as Milan or, Atletico Madrid, that kind of tells you where you're at, right? So that competitiveness does have an effect. But, the other side of that is that Premier League squads should be, and probably are, deeper than the squads you would find elsewhere in the continent. So there's kind of pluses and minuses there that probably even out.
So, in fact, a number of games as well, because if you think Bundesliga is only 18 teams, whereas Premier League is 20, and a lot of Europe only have one domestic competition, whereas in the Premier League there's, of course, the League Cup as well as the FA Cup.
Kev, not just cutting it, just adding on to this, I just feel like we're clutching. I think at this moment, because of the results, that we're clutching, trying to grab hold of something that, is it fatigue? Is it too many games? Is it too many? At this moment, and after the games last night, we just wasn't good enough. The teams wasn't good enough against the competitive European teams.
Look, to take the first point, if you look at a team like Bayern, for example, I think, yes, you're correct, because they've got a 34-game season in the league. They only have one domestic competition. They did play in the Club World Cup in the summer, but so did a lot of teams. So with Bayern, absolutely, I can take that point. And, they did lose at home to Augsburg a few weeks ago, so that can happen, but it doesn't happen a lot. So I take that point. In terms of again, I think, Charlie, you're right to some extent, because you look at Manchester City. I thought they started that game at the Bernabeu quite well, but they ran out of ideas in the second half. I thought Real Madrid were brilliant. Didn't see that coming at all. There's been nothing in their La Liga form to tell you that was going to happen, but they clicked. And when you get to this stage of the competition, generally, you're coming up against proper teams. I mean, PSG are not representative of Liga, right? They've spent an enormous amount of money. They can bring on Kvaratskhelia. Not many teams can do that. Bayern are not representative of the Bundesliga. They're miles clear of everybody in the Bundesliga. So when you get to this stage, rather than compare league to league, what you're actually doing is you're looking at the big hitters. And a lot of them are getting towards the peak they need to reach at this stage of the season.
I was just reading there, it was a couple of weeks ago, that Paris Saint-Germain were given the weekend off in between these two ties in the Champions League, right? I've got to say, Kevin, I'm dead against that. I think that has given no thought whatsoever to their fans who want to go and watch them this weekend, by the way. I would hate that if that happens in England. But with that kind of thing being, like, why are the French League pushing to help Paris Saint-Germain in Europe when they've got a league game?
But that's nothing new,
it's a good one for an ex-player,
Charlie. I don't think that's nothing new, though, Kevin. I think that's.
Do you agree with it?
No, of course.
As a fan, I really don't.
But as a fan, but as a player, that shows that. I think that cements what you said earlier, that PSG are not representative of Ligue 1, are they? That they're head and shoulders above everybody else, and for the French people that run the federation, etc., they want them to go deep into the competition, the Europeans, so they'll do everything they can to support them. But I don't think this is anything new. Isn't something that's what Barcelona used to have with Barcelona and Real Madrid? They used to look after
PSG are only 1 point clear at the top of Ligue 1, They're not running away with it, not like Bayern in Bundesliga.
What we've seen a lot with other competitions is teams being played on a Friday when they've got a game coming up on the Tuesday, for example, or even the Wednesday. It's in French football's interest. You have to bear in mind with Liga specifically, they don't have a lucrative TV deal. They've made an absolute mess of their TV deals in the last few years. It is important to try and, push the league in a marketing perspective, but also to try and get that coefficient up as high as they can, because as many French clubs as possible need European football. So the more that you can get into Europe to get that money in, it's hugely important. I have no massive problem with it. I don't think look, cancelling a game altogether, I'm not on board with, but moving it by a day, giving a team a bit more of a rest, I've got no problem with that at all. And I do think in general, we don't do that in England. Generally, I think you look at some of the schedules, and Jurgen Klopp's talked about this before. You look at, they'll play on a Wednesday in some far-flung destination, and they're in the 12:30 slot on a Saturday. So look, I get it. That's a debate to be had, but I think you do find that on the continent, that the big leagues will say, well, if we can help our guys go further, that should benefit.
But we don't do that in England, because we all have our own agendas, and staying in the Premier League for the 14 other clubs that are not in Europe is a bigger agenda. Not worrying about what the other top six are doing, already moaning about how much money they spend or the better players they've got, etc. They're not worried that they've had an extra day's less rest. They use that as their advantage. So, moving the kick-off time, worrying about a game that's 5 days later, that don't help the opponents that they're playing against. That's just England's mentality.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true, but I think in some of these leagues there is an element of tough. We've kind of decided this. I think as well that's to do with scheduling as well, because if you look at, say, La Liga, I mean, that's done at the drop of a hat. I mean, La Liga, they'll make decisions the week before. There's very little regard for fans, I think, in La Liga in general, which kind of, you only have to look at the debates about moving games to Miami or what have you to underline that. So that is a little bit different in La Liga, because they leave it so late to schedule some of these games. Yeah,
interesting. Only one away team, one of the 8 ties in that first leg. But let's have a word on Bodo Glimt. Is it time to start taking them seriously? Kevin, 3-0 winners over Sporting.
I love them. They're so good. Honestly, they're so good. They play really exciting, vibrant football. They have a great connection, these players. What's remarkable is that they've only just gone back to domestic action. They played in the Norwegian Cup at the weekend against Molde. Their first league game doesn't happen for a few days' time, and yet they've been able to play as if they're razor sharp. They mentally are so strong. You see, when I look at teams line up for the anthem, some have their game face on, some look nervous, that they are smiling as if this is the best day ever. They are all, and that stuff matters because they've got all the technical quality you would want, but they approach these games in the right way. They never play with fear. They don't play underdog football. They play on the front foot. Look, I think if they were to run into Arsenal in the quarters, I think that'd be a step too far, genuinely. I think over the 2 legs, Arsenal would have enough. But what an incredible story, and what a great... You can't follow it completely because of the unique conditions they have with that artificial surface, the Arctic Circle, all that stuff. But there are elements I think clubs can look at and ape.
Yeah. All right, Kevin, great to see you. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
City at the Bernabeu. So did Pep Guardiola get his tactics wrong? A 22-minute Federico Valverde hat-trick did all the damage as City lost the first leg 3-0. Is it game over for them? We'll get Charlie's verdict on that shortly. Real Madrid went 1-0 up inside the opening 20 minutes. Thibaut Courtois found Valverde, who surged into space and rounded Gianluigi Donnarumma before scoring from a tight angle into an empty net. Donnarumma might not want to see this again. For some reason, pulled his arm away to allow Valverde that free shot on goal. Real kept up the pressure and Vinicius Jr. teed up Valverde, who got his second of the night. Fired across goal. And the hosts were 3-0 up going into the break. Valverde flicked the ball over Mark Gahey before completing his first career hat-trick in the Champions League as well against Manchester City. Big game player, clearly. Things went from bad to worse for City in the second half as Donnarumma conceded a penalty after bringing down Vinicius Jr. But he immediately made amends, saving Vinicius' penalty, a huge mountain for City to climb in the return leg next week. Right, Charlie, straight away we'll have a look at Pep Guardiola's starting lineup from last night. He had a lot of attacking players. There's Doku, Semenyo and Savinho all playing behind Haaland. Bernardo Silva, who seems to be playing a bit deeper anyway, was alongside Rodri in midfield. Were you surprised by how attacking that lineup is?
No, because if we're going off what Kev said, he didn't see that coming from Real Madrid, then you can see why Pep's thoughts that we're going to take the game to him. And obviously the attacking players, say, let them down, because in the first 18 minutes, Jeremy Doku was getting the better of Trent all day long, going inside, outside, putting balls across the box. And with the attacking players on the pitch, and with Erling Haaland, the difference was every time he put the ball across the 6-yard box, no one was there to tap it in. So when you look at that lineup, are you surprised by it? I'm going to say no. And the reason why we're saying this is because they lost 3-0. And the 3 goals was nothing to do with the attacking players.
Well, in terms of the attacking players, Erling Haaland, 4 goals in 16 games in 2026. But before the turn of the year, it was 25 in 24. Have you seen anything to explain that?
Well, last night I could explain it. The moment he went off, they started crossing the ball. And when he was on the pitch, he didn't once cross the ball in the box. Too much tippy-tappy.
How frustrating is that? Because you like balls into the box.
Yeah, but for him, that's very frustrating. Yes, he's good at through balls, putting through one-on-one. You've seen how he crosses come in the box on the deck or in the air. He's the man to put the ball in the net. Last night, that wasn't the case. Of course, they're going to play for him. It's Erling Haaland. He's the number 9. They're going to play for him. But last night they didn't, and they haven't done previously. The hard bit for him is he goes through such a hot streak of form. Like I said before, the turn of the year was 25 goals in 24 games. But this time, only 6. The biggest thing is he is the best goal scorer in the world. And if you don't play to the best goal scorer in the world, and it's so evident as well that if he doesn't score, there's not much else that comes to his game, and City don't perform, then you end up with results like that last night.
If they do go out, and they've still got the second leg to come, remember, does it help them or hinder them in the title race?
I'm going to say hinder them. I know last week and for months now I've said City are going to go and win the league, but at the moment, everything looks all over in the Arsenal.
Have you changed your mind?
I think I have. I think now, unfortunately, I have. I've gone back on what I said. I just feel like Arsenal are too far forward. City, can they catch him? I don't know. What after I watched Forest and then you see him perform last night, it's going to be a tough ask for him. It really is. The biggest saving grace is, and one thing we'll be talking about in a week's time if it comes off, is that Donnarumma saved the penalty from Vinicius Junior. Now at 3-0, we've seen it before. Liverpool done it with Barcelona all them years ago. If that comes back to bite Real Madrid, and can Man City have a historic night?
Well, from the Real Madrid point of view, Trent Alexander-Arnold has been starting for Real 6 of the last 7 he's started. Do you think he makes it into the World Cup squad, and does he start?
He makes it into the World Cup squad, yes, I'd say so. If you continue to perform the way he did last night for Real, and you play for Real Madrid, it's very hard for Thomas Tuchel to not have an English player for Real Madrid.
Reece James, Tino Livramento.
No, which I understand, but I'm saying if he's fit and playing, he's in the squad. He should be in the squad. Because let's just talk. He can talk about his dead ball set pieces, are phenomenal. What happens if we go that route?
Hopefully, Rice.
Penalties I'm talking about, but you talk free kick, of course, but I'm saying Trent's in the squad. If he's playing and he's fit, he should be in the squad over Livramento. That's nothing for me, yeah. And that's why I said not starting Lemmy, he'll definitely be in the squad. Thomas Tuchel has got a decision to make. What helps him is he has got the biggest insurance policy that plays in front of him at Real Madrid, who was the man of the match, the hat-trick hero last night, and Valverde is phenomenal.
Yeah, OK, well, we are going to be talking about Valverde and underrated players later on in the show. But for now, joins us now. First of all, Alex, what did you think about Pep Guardiola's tactics? Did he get it wrong?
Wow. Yeah, yes, it was very, very confusing. Of course, it was very obvious he was going to change. He was going to, especially since the Newcastle game, you can see he was experimenting a little bit. So I didn't expect a usual lineup to say. I didn't expect a change. The change was very vast, very aggressive, I'd say. I believe we have many 10s that can play in the role that Semenyo played yesterday. But of course, went ahead and played Semenyo. I don't think there's any reason to drop our fullbacks to any type of experiment. And Nico Riley, as you can see, ever since Pep has pushed him more up the pitch, he's been great. He's been amazing. And I think he should have played there yesterday where Semenyo played, and we should have kept our usual fullbacks. Can't take anything away from Real Madrid. 3 great goals. Great goals. And it's funny because that was the first time this season I've seen them play collectively as a group and not rely on individual brilliance. So it was to say deserved win. We definitely weren't up for it at all. And
it's in the first, like I said before, in the first 18 minutes, I thought Jeremy Doku was brilliant. Putting balls in the box, he was sharp. Like what we'd seen, just didn't have the end touch. After Real Madrid got that goal, City just looked like they didn't have nothing else. For me, it was so disappointing to see a Man City team, Pep Guardiola team, play like that. And we're going to talk about the tactics, and we got it wrong, but it was more about the overall performance from everybody involved in Manchester City was a big disappointment last night.
No, 100%. Sorry, Doku was a great. He played a great game, especially like you said in the first 18 to 25 minutes, to the point where Real Madrid had to get players to double up on him. As you can see, Trent could not handle him. It was a shame because it seemed like even when he was putting the balls in the boxes, we didn't have our clinical finisher Erling Haaland there most of the time, or even doing what he needs to do, which was very upsetting. Which of course leads to me now making a point where I do believe Marmoush should have got a run in very, very much earlier in the game, not in the 80th minute.
For Haaland or with Haaland?
Either way, to be honest. I think Semenyo, he wasn't a ghost of himself, but I do believe that there was a tactical issue there for him not to adapt as much in the game, I believe. So whether maybe he should have got substituted for Marmoush, or maybe Haaland should have got substituted for Marmoush, and then Shirky should have come in earlier. Listen, we've got a great bench, and this is the reason why rotations are very important.
There's a message here that I'm not sure you'll like, actually. It's from a Manchester City fan called Daz. He says, I think it's time Pep moves on. We need someone to come in with a fresh, new approach. Pep looks tired. The players are not at the level of their price tags. What do you think of that?
I think it's the wrong thing to say, especially if there's any manager I'd want in this situation, it's Pep Guardiola. If we are trailing 3-0 to Real Madrid and now we're taking the game back home, there's only one manager I would want in this situation to lead us there. And when a lot of fans say this, they struggle to name a replacement That's the issue. A lot of fans want managers gone or they want players gone, but they're never able to stick their hand on the replacement they want. So I don't think that's fair to say, especially after a result like that yesterday. Real Madrid were absolutely perfect. They have a lot of injuries as well. So it gets to a point where we have to look at ourselves because they did not play with their best team, very, very far from their best team. And we just didn't capitalise in the way that we should have.
Do you have any hope of turning this round? You have done it 4-0 at home to Real Madrid in the past. Yeah,
we have indeed, of course, a treble-winning season. Will I say it's the same bunch of players, same mindset? Probably not. I think that was definitely one of a kind type of team that we have had. But like I said, if there's any team, if there's any manager who's able to do it, it is us. It is us. I'm a bit staggered by yesterday, 100%. It was very unexpected, and not even the fact that we lost, the fact that we didn't even get a goal in was very crazy for me to see. But hey, all we have to do is move on to the second leg.
Only half time. Alex, thank you.
Thank you very much.
3-0 to Real Madrid. Chelsea were also well beaten last night. Their 5-2 defeat against Paris Saint-Germain means it's the first time that two English clubs have lost by 3 or more goals on the same day in the history of the European Cup and Champions League. And questions are being asked again of Chelsea's goalkeepers after a big error by Philip Jorgensen. PSG took the lead through Bradley Barcola, his first Champions League goal since February 2025. Chelsea equalised when Enzo Fernandez set up Malo Gusto. His shot went under the goalkeeper, Matveev Safonov. But PSG went back in front before half-time when Chelsea were caught on a counter-attack. Ousmane Dembele kept his composure to beat Jorgensen. Oh, I thought he should have passed there, but well, he scored. Chelsea hit back early in the second half. Pedro Neto picked out Fernandez, so 2-2 at this stage. That's a great result for Chelsea, but a mistake from Jorgensen cost them dearly. He gave the ball away, and that led to Vitinha making it 3-2, which still, at that stage, is not a bad result. But then things got worse for Chelsea when Vicha Kvaratskhelia scored a wonderful goal to make it 4-2. And players clashed when Pedro Neto pushed one of the ball boys over, trying to get the ball back quickly. The referee took no action against Neto for that incident. In the final moments of the match, Kvaratskhelia scored again to make it 5-2 and put PSG in complete control of the tie. And Gail Davis is in Paris for us. Right, Gail, a disappointing night for Chelsea, and it's left head coach Liam Rosenior with plenty to ponder going to that second leg next week.
Yeah, very good morning to you both. And it's the two big problems that have plagued not just Liam Rosenior, but Enzo Maresca before him. And that is who is his number one goalkeeper and the problem of discipline that we'll come on to afterwards. But last night, as soon as we saw that team sheet, and many of us suspected that Philip Jorgensen would be in because he played in that Villa game and Sanchez had played in the cup game, which sort of gave you the sense that he was emerging as maybe a number one in these big games. There were people that were a little bit concerned. Sanchez, look, he's had a dip in confidence and form. He was very, very good though in that World Club final against PSG 8 months ago. And this was a big game for Jorgensen. And the whole game and the whole time, possibly Chelsea's season kind of hinged at 2-2 when he made that terrible mistake and Vitinha went in. I mean, he had work to do, but it was a fantastic finish for him. Twice Chelsea had come from behind, and as soon as that moment happened, you felt this monumental kind of shift. He was quite lucky that the offside flag came up a little bit afterwards because there was another error from him. And after that, Enzo Fernandez and him had a little bit of some words exchange about the way that he was distributing the ball and where he was overplaying. But he just looked absolutely devastated at the end. He wanted to go straight down the tunnel. I've seen footage of him being taken up by Sanchez to clap the away fans. Just a horrible night for him. And as you say, Rosenior now with some big problems in that area.
Credit to him. He held his hands up in the dressing room. And mistakes happen. I make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And sometimes they're more costly and more painful than other times. This is one of those moments. What we have to do for Rob and for Phil and for all of the players is look after each other.
Yeah, so Rosenior there giving his take on the goalkeepers. Gail, I'm just going to ask Charlie this. Jamie Carragher said that Chelsea won't compete with elite teams if they're unable to fix their goalkeeping issues. Do you, as a former player, agree with that?
Yeah, but I do, because it's one of the most important positions on the pitch. Much everyone says a goal scorer, that's just as most important as the goalkeeper, right? But this is an ongoing problem for Chelsea, and it has been for years, that they haven't had a predominant number one. And we have to pick up what you said, Gail. We go on about Robert Sanchez had an amazing game 8 months ago in the Club World Cup final. That's how far we're going back for Chelsea's number one. And this is their problem. They haven't got a number one. Liam Rossini hasn't got an out-and-out number one. Enzo Maresca didn't, and they haven't for a long time now.
What I would also say, Charlie, is that when you speak to Liam Rossini, he wants to win in the short term, but he wants to play a certain style of game that he played here at Strasbourg that won him, a lot of plaudits over here. And he wants his goalkeepers to be able to play out from the back and be comfortable with distribution. At what point does he say, actually, I can't play this way with the goalkeepers I've got? And we talked about flexibility in managers before, and maybe he just needs to look at the way this Chelsea side are playing or want to play.
I think the biggest thing is a lot of people nowadays want their goalkeepers to play, but ultimately they're there with the gloves on to save it, and that's the most important thing. As we see Tuesday night, the goalkeeper making errors trying to play, it leads to 2 goals, and then we see it again last night, and then, like you say, if the offside flag don't come up, we're looking for another one.
Yeah, big talking point for Chelsea right now. Gail, thanks very much. Let's get the fan view now. Henry Cale joined us. Right, Cale, what do you think about your goalkeeping situation?
It's thoroughly disappointing. I think every Chelsea fan out there has been crying out for a new goalkeeper. Robert Sanchez is a good shot stopper. I think Charlie was slightly harsh just to say that his Club World Cup performance was good. I think at the start of the season, he kept us in quite a lot of games. But the thing he can't do is he can't play with his feet. And then he brought in Philip Jorgensen, who isn't as good a shot stopper, but maybe his USP is that he's good with his feet. And he showed last night that he's not.
Good, so that is, Henry. That's good, that is. Goalie's good with his feet, but not very good as a shot stopper. Nice one. I'll whip the gloves off, give him a different number and put him in centre midfield then. Like, he's a goalkeeper.
I said he wasn't good with his feet.
I'm saying goalkeepers now, we go through this bit where it's goalkeepers, you are there to save the ball from going in with your net. I understand starting play, ball at your feet, etc., but you are there to save the ball from going in your net. That is the most predominant thing. And I think modern day football, that's the issue now, where everything needs to start from the goalkeeper. When you look back, you're just there to put the pair of gloves on and save the ball from going in the net.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, if you look at the stats, PSG scored their last 4 shots. So all of a sudden that tie is all gone because he hasn't stopped the ball going in his net. I mean, that 5th one was really, really weak. And, I would expect a half-decent goalkeeper to be a bit stronger and push that one out. But I think the thing with our goalkeepers is, and what's been discussed, is we're waiting for Mike Penders to come back from Strasbourg. And that's why we haven't gone for a Donnarumma when he was available and Mike Maignan when he was running out of contract at AC Milan. Because we're waiting and putting all of our onus on this kid who's 20 years old. He's going to be 21 by the time we get him in summer. And that, for me as a Chelsea fan, doesn't fill me with that much confidence that we've got our number one nailed down.
Henry, I feel like the goalie's coming under a stick. Yes, he should have saved the 5th one and he gives the ball away for Vitinha's goal or whatever. But that doesn't just stop. It's not his fault that the keeper at the other end makes a great save and get done on the counter-attack and then Dembele scores to put them 2 up. It's not his fault that the defender or the midfielder don't go with Barcola for the first goal and he's 8 yards out of goal inside the penalty box on his own, and then there's no mention of the save that he makes at the front post that he tips onto the bar from Dembele because of the performance that he's obviously put in. Like, I think it's a bigger picture for Chelsea, I really do, and it's the centre-half issue is the one, and the guy who played at centre-half for Real Madrid last night, Antonio Rudiger, who was immense for them last night again, is a person that should still be at Chelsea now.
No, I 100% agree. We were talking about the goalkeepers, and that's why I came across quite harsh on Jorgensen. But I thought Chalobah and Fofana both had a very poor game. I don't think they were strong enough. I think we looked incredibly vulnerable on the counter-attack. So there's definitely personnel issues throughout the entire starting 11. I don't think Cole Palmer had a particularly good game. He was, a big miss for most of the match. So no, it's not just Jorgensen. I don't want to come across that I'm putting all of it down to the goalkeeper, because overall as a team, that game we could have been in it going into the second leg, and mistakes all round the field meant that we're probably not.
What did you think of Pedro Neto pushing the ball boy?
It's not great. It also seems to be a Chelsea thing. It was 13 years ago that Hazard kicked the Swansea ball boy, but he went on to found a very famous vodka company, so maybe it'll be a positive for him in the end.
Yeah, you could see that the ball boy was trying to shield the ball, which he shouldn't have been doing, but obviously the player can't go pushing the ball. But Rossinha was told by French press, by the way, that the team was leaked before last night's match. What do you make of that? Is there a mole in your camp?
There might be, because I actually received the lineup half an hour earlier than I should have. I knew Jorgensen was going to be in goal, so I think there definitely was a leak in there. I don't know how much.
Who sent it to you, Henry?
I can't say that on TV.
Saving his phone as J. Jorg. Have you heard about things like that, Charlie, where teams have been leaked, whether innocently or not? Well, innocently, I suppose.
I think innocently
that could happen. You might...
at times. That you tell your family members or your friends, etc. But then they've got a massive squad and everyone wants to play, and you do get frustrated players, and sometimes people have their own agendas, etc. That's the tough bit. But when it comes out like that, it isn't good, because then you start looking around the dressing room thinking, who is the mole? Do you think it's done, Henry? You think you're out?
Well, I'd like to cast your boys' mind back to 2017 when PSG took a 4-0 lead to the Nou Camp, and I believe it was called La Remontada. Luis Enrique's Barcelona side beat them 6-1. So what I'm trying to say is it's not impossible. It has been done before, but I think we might be out.
I remember that game. But you've still got hope, Henry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.